G'day, it's Matt here from Sydney Disc Golf Club, and we're going to do a quick run through of the caddy book for Aussie Disc Golf Day 2022, this Saturday, the 3rd of December. So, big thanks to our primary sponsor, Disconnection. So, big shout out to Reese and the team over there in WA. Great to have your support again for one of our events. So, just a quick note before we jump into the whole run through. For those who haven't been to the Armoury before, you'll come in on Holker Street near the jail. So the jail's over on this side, and turn in onto Jamison Street. And as you come past the jail, there will be a car park on the left-hand side. That is all-day parking. You can park there for free without a ticket, and you won't get fined by the ranger. So as you come out of that car park, come across the road, down and into the main gate. Once you come through the gate, you can come around the road on the right-hand side, follow that around up to Event HQ, where you can check in and pick up your disc. There is some parking out near the main gate, but just beware that is 2-hour parking, and the rangers do fine you if you overstay the 2-hour visit. So, the layout, this is a very different layout to normal. We're only using 2 holes from one of the old layouts, and all of these are new. So big thanks to Pritt for this reverse layout. So hole 1 starts over here near the end of the shed, shooting down to this basket. Hole 2, then hole 3, and then moving out to hole 4. 5's an interesting hole with a mando. We'll go through these in a bit more detail in a minute. Then hole 6, 7 over into the back corner. Then on the return leg, we've got hole 8 along par 4. Hole 9, hole 10. Hole 11 is one of our holes which we've played before. Hole 12, we'll talk a bit about. That's a new hole, but maybe not. And then down to hole 13. Just a note that hole 12 to hole 13 will cross the fairway of hole 11. So if hole 11 can just let that group pass through quickly, just to keep the course flowing. Hole 13 is also a hole that we normally play. Then we've got hole 14, 15 up the hill, 16 across the top of the hill. Then 17 around with the mando, and then our final hole, hole 18, is one of the old safari holes from many years ago. So that is the 18-hole layout. So we'll go through each of the holes in a bit more detail now. So hole number 1 is sponsored by Disconnection, and this will be our CTP hole for all players in round 1. So you're shooting from the end of the shed here, and there's a bit of a gap that you've got to make through off the tee, and the big gum tree out on the right hand side by itself is a mando, so you've got to stay to the left of that. If you do miss the mando, the drop zone will be just on the left hand side of the tree. The only OB to be aware of is the road behind the basket and anything on the other side of the road as well. So as a reminder, this is the CTP hole for round 1, sponsored by Disconnection. Moving on to hole number 2, par 3, 79 metres, sponsored by Disc Golf Warehouse. This one's fairly straightforward, shooting from the concrete pad at the old shed, and you'll be shooting across the OB road here in front, and it's also OB on the road behind and the area behind the road as well. Fairly straightforward, not much to worry about on this one. Moving on to hole 3, par 4, 131 metres. So shooting from the tee, this is sponsored by Berg's Bags. The tee is on the road, and the grassed area on the right-hand side of the road is safe, and out to the ditch. So the ditch runs across from right to left, and so the where it's mowed is the edge of the OB. And then as you get up around near the basket, there will be a 10-metre circle on the western side of the basket, and then that will cut across in a straight line back across to the road. And so, yeah, that's a fairly straightforward par 4. For the big arms, you can attack that and maybe even get yourself an eagle. Moving on to hole 4, par 3, 79 metres, sponsored by Disc Golf Warehouse. Fairly easy one. The tee is just on the edge of the road here. The road out to the left-hand side is OB if you do manage to shank one out there. And also the deep grass behind the basket on that right-hand side is also OB. So just try and stay out of that. But otherwise, again, fairly straightforward, par 3. Hole 5. This one's an interesting one. So it's a par 4, sponsored by Disconnection, and 126 metres. So the tee here is just on the edge of the road, and you should be able to see the basket down to the left. So it's down past this big tree. So there's between that tree and there's a little tree on the end as well. That's between those two. So off the tee, you got to shoot up, and there is the mando. So on the top of the bunker, you may not be able to see it on the tee, so you may have to go and have a look. There's a little chimney that sticks up at the end of the bunker, and that is the mando. So you need to stay on the right-hand side. So you want to throw one up here through the gap in the trees, and you want to place it so that you've got a nice, easy second shot down towards the basket. If you leave it short, then you're going to have to try and work your way around the mando. And if you go too long, you might end up on the road or the other side of the road where it is OB. So be aware of that. On your second shot, you just need to be careful that the road marks the edge of the OB on either side. So fairly straightforward, I think. It will be just a matter of getting around that mando and placing your first tee shot. Hole number 6, par 3, 67 metres, sponsored by Berg's Bags. This is an island hole, so you're teeing from OB, and you need to shoot across the road. So the road is OB, and the road down behind the basket is also OB. If you go OB from the tee shot, there will be a drop zone up just outside circle 1, giving you a death putt towards the basket. Going OB from the second shot or subsequent shots is just normal OB rules. Hole 7, 76 metre par 3, sponsored by Disc Golf Warehouse. This one, the tee is just across the road from the previous basket, and it's fairly open out to the right-hand side. The only OB to be concerned about is if you've got a big arm and you throw it over the chain link fence, which is probably unlikely. You're going to have some deep grass and trees out to the right if you go long, but elsewhere is fairly easy and straightforward. Okay, hole number 8, par 4, 122 metres, and this hole is sponsored by Disconnection. A spotter is required for this hole, so if you want to, if one of the players wants to come up near this tree to keep an eye on any traffic that might be people coming around the road or the previous group that may be, holding up. So this is a par 4, but it's fairly short. You can attack the basket again on this one. Just be aware of the road is an OB river in front of the basket. And down near the basket, the road is also OB down there as well. And then there will be a painted line that comes up across the edge of the bunker to the solar panel, and then from the solar panel across to the tree. So you want to make sure you stay out to the left-hand side here. You can put your tee shot out, about 100 metres, leaving you maybe even a circle 2 putt if you're lucky. But just make sure you don't go OB to the right-hand side. Hole 9, 90 metre par 3. And this one's going to be interesting. It's sponsored by Berg's Bags. The tee is over here near the edge of the road, and the basket is going to be sitting up on this little peninsula section here. So all of the roads around this area play OB. So if you want to play it safe, you can throw it out into this area on the right and then push across onto the peninsula island. If you do manage to shank one out to the out to the left, you may have an opportunity to still get across there and save your par. But it can get pretty rough out there on that left-hand side, and you can be left with nothing. Hole number 10, sponsored by Disconnection. And this is our CTP hole for round 2 for all players. Very short hole, 61 metre par 3. But the basket is very close to the OB line. So the basket's going to be placed just up on top of the bank, and OB is about 4 to 5 metres behind it. So if you go too long, you're going to be on the road and out of bounds. It's also going to be a bit of an island. Again, if you miss the island off the tee, and that's possible if you go too long, there will be a drop zone just over here on the edge of the road. Once you've, from your second shot and all subsequent shots, normal OB rules apply. But besides that, the island will run down around the edge of the road. Then from there, there'll be a painted line up to the tree, and then from the big tree near the basket out to the little shrub out here, so on the right-hand side, and then in a straight line back towards the tee. Hole number 11, par 3, 91 metres. This is one of our holes that you'll recognise from previous tournaments. So you've got the basket up in the trees, and we're going to have a mando. So there'll be mando tape, high vis tape around the tree, and you'll see the tape running back through the tree line, and that mando line will continue on to infinity. So if you cross the mando line, there will be a drop zone out here near the tree. So there will be a longish putt to try and save par. OB, the only OB to really be concerned about is over the chain link fence. So again, if you rip on one really hard and go over the fence, that will be OB. Normal OB rules apply. There is also some OB way out to the left, but it'd be very surprising if you end up out there. So yeah, hole 11, sponsored by Disc Golf Warehouse. Hole 12. Now, this is the hole that we plan to play. So this is a new hole. But for those in Sydney, you'll remember that there has been a red belly black snake spotted in this area. SOPA is supposed to be cleaning this area out this week, but it will be dependent on the contractors and the weather. So if they don't clean this out, we will play an alternative, which we'll talk about on the next page. But this hole is sponsored by Disconnection. And this is a tricky one. So you've got trees everywhere. There is a little gap down the middle there. So slight hyzer, and you can push it through and get yourself a birdie putt. The only OB of concern is the on the right-hand side down there if you end up on the road, but that's very, very unlikely. There is a mando tape there on the previous hole. That can be ignored. That's not part of the of hole 12. So if this hole is unplayable, we will let you know on the day, but because it's not been cleaned out, we will play alternative hole 12, which is the white layout. So this will be the hole 9 white layout, where you've got a clear shot at the basket. There's trees down both sides. Same OB, ignore the mando. I'm sure you've all played this at some point, and again, this will be sponsored by Disconnection. Hole number 13, another repeat from previous tournaments. It's 91 metre par 3. You've got the basket down there in the corner. You've got OB grass down, from the creek down the left-hand side, and going over is also OB. And you've got the road, the edge of the road marks OB out there behind the basket and up on the right-hand side. Besides that, it's normal OB rules apply, and it's sponsored by Berg's Bags. Hole 14, 98 metre par 3. Very similar layout to the previous hole. So teeing off the road, you've got the mode line down the left-hand side of the creek, which marks the edge of the outer bound. So if you're in the deep grass, you're OB, or if you go over the creek, you're OB. And if you really smash one over the fence, that's also OB. Hole number 14, sponsored by Disc Golf Warehouse. Hole 15. This one's going to be a tricky one. It's only 82 metres uphill, par 3, sponsored by Berg's Bags. And you've got a mando tree out here on the right-hand side, so you've got to stay to the left. If you do miss the mando, there will be a drop zone just to the left of the tree. You've got to try and hit a very tiny gap here. You will be able to see the basket, and the OB is over the fence, so out to the left over the chain link fence, which will be difficult to do, but you might do it. And up behind the basket, there will be a painted line that is level with the sign that you'll be able to see off the tee. So that marks the back of the fairway. So the basket itself is about 10 metres off that OB. But really, you've got to try and crush it through this little gap, or maybe throw over the top, but you've got to make sure you stay to the left of the mando. So normal OB rules apply if you do go OB. Hole number 16, par 3, 104 metres, slightly downhill this one, sponsored by Disc Golf Warehouse. You can go the straight route, straight at it. You should be able to see the basket down there in amongst the trees. Or you can swing one out to the right. You can hyzer it out to the right and in through the gap on that side. OB line, there will be a painted line along the outside edge of the logs here. So that will run up to the edge of the road, and then the edge of the road marks the OB all the way around behind to the clubhouse. And the concrete pad, if you do manage to end up out there somehow, that is also OB. Besides that, it's the path that runs through it is safe, so if you land on there, no OB. And normal OB rules apply if you do manage to throw it out onto the road. Coming down to our second last hole, hole number 17, par 4, short par 4, 128 metres. Teeing off the road near club HQ. You've got the a mando tree here, the big gum tree out on top of the hill. You've got to stay to the right of that. If you miss the mando, there will be a drop zone just next to the tree. You can smash this one out and get it to hyzer back out down the hill. And if you're really, really smart, you really might be able to get down close to the basket. But beware, the road does play as an OB river, and normal OB rules do apply. The mando will be marked again with tape on the tree and tape on there, and there'll be a line that will continue off to infinity. So hole 17, sponsored by Berg's Bags, and on to our final hole, sponsored by Disconnection. Another par 4, a longish par 4, 174 metres uphill with a lot of OB and a mando. So this one is quite tricky. You'll be teeing from OB here. The road, or the other side of the road, marks the edge of the OB, so you need to make sure you're out across there. If you don't cross into inbounds area off the tee, if you somehow manage to shank it down to the right and you don't cross, then you will be re-teeing with a penalty. A bit up near, just before the house, you'll see a large gum tree. It will have, again, tape on it, and the tape will mark the mando line with a painted line that goes off to infinity. That painted line will sort of run off towards the clubhouse. If you miss the mando, drop zone will be on the right-hand side of the tree. Also up near the house, there will be a painted OB line, and that is to protect the house there. We don't want people throwing discs on the roof of the house or the car that may be parked around here as well. So that's all OB. It will be painted. You'll be able to see it. If you do go OB, normal OB rules apply. And also the road around behind the basket and further around if you do manage to get off course. So that is our whole layout for the 2022 Aussie Disc Golf Day in Sydney. Reminder that there is no parking available in the Armoury, so don't drive in through the gate. All parking will be outside. And a reminder also that the gate or the parking at the gate is 2-hour limited parking. So out of bounds. I've mentioned there that we will paint some of the lines around some of the baskets where it's not well defined. But if you are near a road, if your disc is on the road and it's surrounded by the road, that is out. If you are on the grass, then, touching any piece of grass, that is safe. And that is also safe because it's touching a piece of grass. Even though it may be dead, if it's touching a piece of grass that is attached to the fairway, then that is safe. If it does happen to be touching a piece of grass that's just sprouting up through the road, then that's not okay. So that's the case with the road. With the deep grass, the grass has been freshly mowed this week, so it is fairly well defined. So this is an example of an OB throw. You can see the disc is surrounded by long grass, and the mow line here is away from the grass. So that is the edge of the OB. That, on the other hand, is okay. That's in. So you can see the disc is surrounded by mowed grass. And this one on the line here, you can see it's touching a piece of mowed grass. So that is also safe. So once, if you're in that location, you can bring your disc in 1 meter in any direction. So that is the guidance on OB. We'll have ropes on each of the baskets. So if you need to check whether you're in the 10-meter circle, you can stretch the rope out to check the distance. Just make sure you put the rope back when you're finished. Scoring-wise, we will be using the PDGA scoring app. So you can fire up your web browser or use the app itself that can be now downloaded off the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. But if you're using the web browser, pdga.com/score, and the password for the event is Sydney. Any questions during the event? If you do, you're not sure about anything, I probably won't be able to answer anything during the round. But if you need to contact me before, after, or between the rounds, there's my mobile number. If you're unsure about whether you're inbounds or out of bounds, you can always throw a provisional. So play both discs, play them out, come see me at the end of the round, perhaps take a photo of where you were, and I'll make a decision on which disc will be scored. So a schedule for the day. So Saturday, we will start registering at 8:30. So you can turn up, pick up your disc. So the first 50 registrations will get a fourth circle special disc. We'll have a mandatory players meeting at 9 o'clock, which won't include these walkthroughs of the holes. Round one will start at around 9:30 or earlier, hopefully. Once you've finished the round and your scorecard has been submitted, or both scorecards have been submitted, you can go off for lunch, and that will be a bring your own. We will have drinks available for purchase from Event HQ. 1 o'clock, we will have our players meeting for round two and talk about the cards. And then round two will kick off by 1:30 or earlier. We should be finished by 4 o'clock. So once we've finished, come back to Event HQ. If there's any ties for first place, we'll have a playoff, and we will then have our presentation by 4:15, and we should be definitely well and truly finished by 5 o'clock. So that's our caddy book walkthrough for 2022 Aussie Disc Golf Day in Sydney. Huge thanks to our main sponsor, Disc Connection. We've also been sponsored by Berg's Bags and Disc Golf Warehouse. And also big thanks to Four Circle Discs for the disc that will be available to the first 50 registrations. And, of course, Australian Disc Golf, who are supporting Aussie Disc Golf Day. So weather's forecast looking good, and we'll hope to see you all there on Saturday. And good luck.